my first vaccine jab, yes, I waited a little bit because I wanted to see what was going to happen. I often do that. I follow the science to see what developments are. That's the scientist in me. If you're expecting something like having blood drawn, no, it's barely noticeable. However, what happens after that will be different because it goes into a muscle, this vaccine. That means that your arm is likely to be a little bit sore. There are other potential side effects. In my case, I know that I often respond atypically to all sorts of things. An example is that anti-allergy meds that are supposed to make you sleepy tend to keep me awake. Until I have a beer and then I fall over. When I had rabies shots many years ago, I developed muscle aches. You're not supposed to develop muscle aches. But hay fever also produces muscle aches and muscle weakness in me, so I know that I often respond atypically. Another thing is that I have on occasion hyperventilated very badly, and I need to tell medical staff about this because when it happens, it catches me by surprise. It has something to do, it didn't happen this time. It has something to do with something that happened in my childhood, a childhood incident in which my parents, very well-meaning, did something really stupid, and it was made worse by Catholic nuns who ran the schools that I was in. Because when we had jabs then, when these nuns noticed that I wasn't feeling too well, they would grab me and push my head between my knees, which of course makes things worse because it makes it harder to breathe and because it reinforced what caused this effect in me. I haven't had this response in a long time. The last time it happened was about 15 years ago, but it was completely unexpected when that happened. And in the past, in the mid-80s, medical staff stood watching me, stood looking at me and told me that they'd never seen anything like that before. But I know I'm fine, except medical staff doesn't know that, so I have to tell them in advance, if that happens, just leave me be, I'm going to be fine, promise, I don't need anything, I'll be fine. And again, when I had the rabies shots, there was no effect either. Well, and besides, also, I got the AstraZeneca vaccine. I have to admit that the Pfizer vaccine has my slight preference because it seems to be a little bit better at dealing with variants, and it also seems to be a little bit better at curbing transmission to others. Although, of course, it's still early days. It's still very hard to say what exactly is going to happen. Specifically with here in the UK, there being 12 weeks between the two jabs. There is so many data that we don't have yet. But there's something else I need to tell you. There's a big chance that this vaccine came from my home country. Boris Johnson is going on about needing to protect the borders, about the virus washing up on our shores and so on, and I want him to stop doing that. It is authorization of foreigners. Even the mildest authorization, says Oxford neuroscientist Kathleen Taylor, primes people for aggression. Boris Johnson, stop doing it. Stop demonizing people like me who have washed up on your shores. Like I said, this vaccine may well have come from my own country. It turns out that when Oxford University was looking to develop this vaccine, they went to the Dutch government to ask for an investment because they predicted that there would be a shortage in production facilities, and the UK government was not interested in having production facilities abroad. So at that point, the University of Oxford only had £400,000 to invest, and that was not enough to operate a facility that they were eyeing in Leiden, a town in which I used to live. So they asked the Dutch government for an investment of 10 million euros. The Dutch may have been asleep at the wheel, but never mind. 1 or 2 days after there was a discussion about this, a meeting about this with the Dutch Prime Minister, AstraZeneca stopped in and things changed from that point on. It's quite possible that the Dutch still could have invested, but it's hard to tell in retrospect. The heart of the matter is that the UK has not exported one single vaccine dose to my home country, while millions of vaccine doses apparently are being produced at what's called the mystery factory, and nobody knows where they're going to. And AstraZeneca has a gagging clause But your guess that they're probably going to the UK is probably correct. So, Mr. Johnson, please stop demonizing all these vaccines that wash up on your shores from India and the Netherlands. Stop the authorization, please, because it's dangerous. Please don't do it anymore, because it also makes me very angry when I hear you do that. It makes me very angry, and it makes me feel powerless, and it makes me feel dehumanized. And by the way, the staff that just gave me that jab, you are brilliant. You did a really good job. Thank you very much. Hey all, I recorded that earlier bit yesterday. When I came back, when I was walking back from the jab, I noticed an effect on my mucous membranes instantly. I've been plagued by mucous membrane and sinus issues all my life, so I recognize that kind of stuff pretty quickly. At about 9 o'clock last night, I started feeling really rosy and sleepy, so I decided to call it a day. I woke up at 3 a.m. feeling really warm, not feverish, but you know, all your veins open really warm. And this morning I woke up with a headache that they predicted. It's not a regular headache, it's a sinus headache. Thank God for coffee. I started the day with 3 mugs of coffee. My energy is slightly low, my temperature is a little bit off. I can't really tell whether it's warm. Well, okay, the weather is weird too. That plays a role as well. And my sinuses continue to bother me a little bit, but apart from that, I'm fine. I notice I'm a little bit short-fused. I'm a little bit cranky. It goes with sinus headaches. Like I said, I've had them all my life. I'm going to dedicate another video in a short while about vaccine hesitancy and also rumors and myths that circulate and how you can debunk them. I debunked one yesterday, accidentally, sort of. Somebody mentioned something. I'll come back to that. And yeah, I'm a bit dopey. I'm a bit dopey today. That's okay.